Hi, excuse me. I was just wondering, do you think a CPL filter video would be really popular on YouTube? I was going to make one now, and I was just wondering what you thought of the popularity of that video would be. If you'd be interested, I'll forget about it.
Hi everyone, today I'm talking to you about an accessory that I really didn't think I needed for the longest time. I've been smartphone filmmaking for over a year now, maybe a year and a half, and I just thought there's no point in getting this, it's not going to be a big help. But actually, now I've got it and I've got out using it, it is really, really amazing and it's kind of magic. And that accessory is the circular polarizer filter. Now, this is completely different to ND filter, so don't get those two mixed up. This does a very different job, and it gives you effects and creates things in your image that you just cannot create in post-production. So without further ado, let me explain to you what it is, how it works, and the effects that it has. Well, essentially, you've got two elements to this filter. You've got the back section, and you've got the front section here. The front section actually turns, whilst the back section stays still, and as you're turning it, it stops certain angles of light, as I'm looking at it now, from going into your camera sensor. So the feedback you're getting is going to have less or more reflections because of it. So as you're turning it, it's going to cut out, say, for example, 2 out of the 3 lights that are coming through, or light waves. And then because you're cutting out so much of the light coming in, you're not getting the reflections. And then the more you turn it, the stronger effect you get. Sometimes you can go overboard with the effect, but for the most part, you can get really great images with this. Now, cars is a situation where it really comes into its own. So you can see the reflections on the top. There's none on the side of this car because that's not where the sun's facing. So we've got nice clear sides to the car, but we want to get rid of that reflection on the front windscreen. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually get the front section of our CPL and start turning it. What that's going to do, as I said, it's going to get rid of those reflections and we can see right into the car. This is perfect for those shots that you want to get in narrative films, for inside car conversations. And you can see the difference there in the screen wipe of how deep that colour looks now inside the car. With this one, again, if you want to do a head-on shot in front of a car, you can see the red's really coming into its own here, the real depth of colour there. And it gets rid of those reflections pretty much completely on this car. Now that's not in all situations, but in this one, you can see a nice deep red. And on the window, you can see right through it. So if you have, again, another conversation with someone in a car like that, you can see really clear through the window where the reflections are everywhere. And that's what you'd normally get when you're shooting through a regular lens of your phone. If you're shooting, say, in a house or outside of a house looking inwards, you got these windows here where you got a lot of reflections from the houses opposite, the skies, you're seeing the rooftops as well, the houses opposite. It's really not a good look, but then twisting the CPL, you get a really great deep vision of what's inside of that room, or at least through the windows. And you can have a nice scene there, which you normally wouldn't be able to get, given that, if you've got a regular lens, that just isn't possible. Now, this is probably my favourite shot of the whole entire video. This building's got a whole glass front to it, and when you turn that CPL front lens, you can see right inside of it. You can see there's a library inside, but when you turn it the other way, how it looked first, you just cannot see through those windows at all, apart from a few books to the right. It's an insanely different look, and it's really quite a magical thing that this filter does, and I cannot believe that I didn't have this before. It will really transform the way your films look, documentaries, music videos, any kind of narrative thing as well. It works superb, and with this half and half shot, you can see on the right hand side how it looks, and on the left hand side how it looks, and I'll switch it up as well perhaps as well so you can see the difference both sides. It really is insane the difference that this CPL filter makes. And on a building like this where it's just full of glass, if you look to the centre of the image where there's some black chairs inside of this glass building, you'll see how much clearer it becomes there. So you can see pretty much through this. Obviously it's all glass and the reflections are working for us, but even when you turn it here, you can start to see a deeper colour as the CPL filter changes, and you get a nice rich image here. Now you can also use it to get rid of haze, so if you look really into the distance, it doesn't work so well on a phone here because it's such a small lens sensor, but if you're using photography cameras, that kind of stuff, it will get rid of that haze in the distance really, really well. Otherwise, as you see here, it kind of alters the shadows as well and gives you a richer, deeper green if you want that too. So it really depends on the look that you want for your project. Now, water is one of my favourite ways to use a CPL. It's a lot of fun using this. You can see the reflections on the water there, and as you turn it, you almost completely get rid of the reflections. It's quite insane the effect that this has on water as well. Anything reflected pretty much, even some plastics ended up being quite reflective as well, that you can get rid of those reflections. So if you've got a nice scene here, maybe you don't want the reflections on that pond or anything like that because you've got people walk around it for a nice scene and it just works. On this scene here, you can see as I turn it, you can see all the way through the water, all the rocks, stones, the pebbles, everything. The detail you can get out of this CPL filter on your image that you just can't get in post-production is absolutely outstanding and stunning. I highly recommend you get a CPL. It is quite addictive using this on water. I have to say, I've got another shot here. It doesn't really matter as well whether it's a shallow bit of water or whether it's a deep bit of water. You'll get the detail just as well. And it's a little bit of money to give you a really, really amazing effect
on your image. As I said as well, on the plastic it works, so the signs and notices that are behind the plastic sheet here, you can get completely rid of the reflections, or at least 90% I would say of the reflections there. So if you've got someone walking up to it, maybe you're vlogging, traveling, that kind of stuff, it will make a huge difference on just about any kind of reflective surface. Now skies is a really big one as well, another reason why people use CPL filters. So we'll see here as I turn it, that sky will go lighter blue or darker blue, so you can adjust it for the level of depth and deep blue that you want for your image. So for me, I'd want to go quite deep in the blue. If you go too light, it just looks like it's blending into the clouds too much. But as you can see, as I turn it a little bit more, get that deeper, rich blue in the sky like there. It just looks fantastic, and I recommend using these on skies all the time, and I pretty much will use this all the time myself.
Now, unfortunately, like a lot of good things in life, there is a caveat to using a circular polarizer filter. That, of course, being that it does reduce the light going into your camera sensor by at least 1 or 2 stops. So if you're using ND filters, you're probably going to have to do a little bit of balancing between using the right ND and getting that 1 or 2 stops down from the circular polarizer. I did find using it in really shaded areas, because a phone sensor is so small, it actually made the image too dark to use, almost pitch black. So that is something to keep in mind as well. There's a really good rule of thumb as well to get the most out of your CPL filter. Essentially, you get the best results in terms of getting rid of your reflections and such and recovering those details if you're angling your camera 90 degrees from the sun. So let's say the camera, you guys right now, are the sun. Of course you're the sun, you're the light of my life. And then if you look to your left, that's 90 degrees. If you look to your right, that's 90 degrees. So as long as you're doing that from the sun, that's going to give you either that way or that way the best CPL effect. Of course, it does work in other angles from the sun as well, but that's the ideal situation from the sun. If you're filming with a subject in front of you, but the sun's behind that subject, then it's going to be almost impossible to get rid of reflections.
Now, this is a really good example of how the 90-degree rule comes into play here. You can see that there's light only coming from above in this area. So we've got a U shape of brick walls here, stopping light from getting to that window. The only light is actually coming from behind the camera here, and a little bit from this side as well. So if I turn this circular polarizer, look to that window on the left and the one ahead. As I turn it, you'll see that the reflection only disappears from the window on the left. That's because we're getting more light coming in from this side to this window. The only light coming to this window really is from straight ahead. So that light angle really does make a big difference, and you cannot get rid of that reflection on the window straight ahead, as I showed you in a visual example earlier on. But you can get rid of the light reflection, as you can see clearly, on the left-hand side, because it's getting a lot more light. And that is a really important thing to think about. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, can you use an ND filter with a CPL filter? And the good news is you can, but there's a way to do it. Okay, so this is with an ND filter on. I've actually got 2 ND filters on because it's such a sunny, bright day. I've stacked them, and I've stacked the CPL filter on top of those. So this is with the ND filters first, and then the CPL put on top. So the image here is really stunning. I've turned the CPL so you've got a nice deep blue sky, and it's got a really nice rich image and colour to it. Now this is with the CPL filter put on first and the ND filter stacked on top of it. Now in other videos I've seen of people using it like this, it actually produces a coppery reddish hue to your image, but here it seems to be okay. The big problem really is that it's very difficult, almost impossible to turn your CPL. So always put your CPL filter on top of your ND filter so you can use it properly, easily, and it's there to use, nice and quick.
This really has surprised me, this accessory. The CPL circular polarizer filter is a little bit of magic for your film and can recover those details from the highlights, give you deeper, richer colours, and it can help with blue skies as well, not to mention getting rid of haze if you're in a location where that is something that happens. Now in terms of price, this costs $40 from Moondog Labs' online site. Well worth it. It's really good bang for your buck. And it gives you such great detail, as I said, with the image. And there are more expensive brands like Hoya, Nikon, if you want to go really upmarket. That tends to be more for your, photography and, DSLR cameras and stuff. But that can be used on smartphones too. So they tend to cost about $100 to $200 plus. Well, if you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that subscribe button if you hadn't already, hit the like button, and comment down below, are you going to get a CPL filter? Do you have one already? And were you surprised by the effects? Let me know down below, and I will catch you on the next one. Thank you for watching. Take care. Bye bye.